Okay, so when you think Melbourne coffee, your mind probably jumps straight to post-World War II, right?
Yeah, definitely. Espresso machines, Italian immigrants, Pellegrinis, that whole vibe.
Exactly. And look, that's a huge part of it, a vital part. But it's not actually where Melbourne's coffee story began.
Not even close, really.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into that common idea and, well, challenging it a bit. Turns out the origins are much earlier, much more turbulent, maybe. Back in 19th century, marvelous Melbourne.
It's fascinating because coffee wasn't just, a hot drink then. It became this real symbol, a social and even political statement.
Right.
We're talking about a time post-gold rush of just immense wealth, but also completely uncontrolled growth and, frankly, a lot of social chaos.
Hmm.
So our mission today is sort of uncovering how that first wave of coffee culture happened and how it laid this foundational groundwork psychologically and culturally for everything that came later.
And it's this really strange mix, isn't it? Like intense moral crusades bumping right up against crazy speculative finance.
Exactly. A real contradiction.
So let's paint the picture. Late 19th century, marvelous Melbourne, the gold rush money is pouring in, population's booming, extreme prosperity.
But prosperity with problems.
Yeah.
Huge problems. You had this massive influx of people, a big demographic imbalance, loads of young single men.
Ah, okay.
And that led to, well, a very visible issue with public drunkenness. The whole social fabric felt a bit strained, you could say.
Making it ripe for reform movements.
Precisely. Enter the temperance movement. And these weren't just folks saying, don't drink. It was a much broader social reform push.
Based on.
Ideas of self-control, self-denial, very middle-class values championed by groups like the Women's Christian Temperance Union, the WCTU.
Right.
And they knew very cleverly that just telling people not to go to pubs wasn't enough. They had to offer something else, something compelling, respectable.
Which brings us to the coffee palaces.
Yes. And palaces is the key word there. These weren't little cafes.
No, they were described as large and elaborate residential hotels that did not serve alcohol.
Yeah.
Huge, opulent.
Deliberately opulent. They were designed to compete directly with the grand licensed hotels to project this sense of moral superiority.
Some serious ambition there. Got any examples?
Oh, absolutely. The Federal Coffee Palace. For a time, it was the tallest building in Australia. 165 feet, 560 rooms. Massive.
Wow.
Or the Grand Coffee Palace, which you might know today as the Hotel Windsor. At its opening, they made a big show of ceremoniously burning its liquor license.
A real statement.
Mm-hmm.
But who was funding these massive moral enterprises?
And that's the paradox. Often the backers were pillars of the Protestant churches, very upright figures,
Okay.
but also deeply involved as reckless financiers in the city's absolutely wild speculative land boom. Morality meets mammon, you might say.
So you've got these grand palaces aiming for respectability, funded by potentially shaky money.
Mm-hmm.
What about coffee for, ordinary folk? Was it just for the middle classes?
Not at all. There was a whole other coffee world happening simultaneously down on the cobblestone level, the street coffee stalls.
Ah, the stalls. Tell me about those.
Totally different scene. These operated mostly at night. Their customers were, cab drivers, police on duty, people out late, maybe after the pubs closed. Authorities sometimes called them low street people.
Right, a different crowd.
And the coffee, simple stuff. Coffee, yes, but also greasy cakes, saveloys, pies with legendary rumored fillings like Tabby's cats and black and tans, which were probably dogs.
Oh, lovely. So very basic, very functional. And the authorities weren't keen.
Definitely not. Viewed them with a lot of suspicion. They often tried to restrict their operating hours, seen as a bit disreputable, maybe attracting the wrong sort.
So it's a clear split then, isn't it? Coffee
Yeah.
is a symbol of middle class progress and sobriety in the palaces.
Yeah.
Versus coffee is just cheap, practical fuel and warmth for the working class at the stalls. Same drink, totally different meaning.
Absolutely stark divide. But that grand palace vision, well, it didn't last.
The inevitable fall.
The inevitable fall, the land boom, that source of reckless finance, it burst spectacularly. Melbourne plunged into a deep financial crisis in the 1890s.
And the coffee palaces.
They suffered badly. They lost custom. People just didn't have the money. And faced with ruin, many of these temples of temperance did the pragmatic thing.
Let me guess. They got liquor licenses.
Bingo. Suddenly, serving alcohol wasn't so immoral when bankruptcy was looming. Financial reality trumped the moral mission for many.
It's quite something. And the Federal Coffee Palace, the really big one.
That icon of ambition. It limped along for decades, but was eventually demolished in 1972. Caused a bit of an outcry, but down it came. A sort of final symbolic end to that specific era.
But of course, Melbourne's coffee story wasn't over, not by a long shot. This is where the narrative most people know picks up, right? This second wave.
Exactly. Post-World War II, you have European immigrants arriving, especially Italians and Greeks, bringing new technology, crucially, the espresso machine, and a completely different philosophy.
Like Pellegrini's, opening in '54.
Pellegrini's is the classic example. These places weren't about being moral alternatives to pubs. They were about community, conversation, artisanal quality coffee. They were social hubs in a new way.
So how do these two waves connect? Did the palaces leave any legacy?
I think they did. Despite their ultimate failure as temperance ventures, they did establish this idea of large, public, non-alcoholic gathering places in the city. They carved out a space.
Okay.
So the post-war immigrants didn't create that space from scratch. They stepped into it, redefined it, revitalized it with espresso, and built the foundations of the modern Melbourne coffee scene we know today. They gave it its soul, perhaps.
So it's not one simple story. Melbourne's coffee culture is more like a palimpsest, maybe? Layers of history?
That's a great way to put it, a palimpsest of historical forces. It's traveled from being a moral crusade tangled up with speculative money
Yeah.
to becoming this really sophisticated communal culture obsessed with quality.
Okay, so a final thought for you listening. Next time you're grabbing a flat white or a long black in Melbourne, just pause for a second. Think about what you're actually tasting. Is it the echo of a 19th century moral statement? The ghost of a risky financial gamble? Or the warmth of a post-war community revolution? Maybe. Maybe it's a bit of all three. Which layer hits you first?